there's so many layers to this. It's Nike, it's intern, it's 9 to 5 kind of vibe. Like, just listen. Just you'll get it.
Loved about Nike, I never even thought about that because it wasn't a thing that I thought about at the time, was their ability to storytell with athletes, the stories and the way that they articulated who the athletes are and the authenticity of the athletes. And that's what led you to buy the product. And they offered me a consultancy. And then when LeBron turned pro, he was like, you have the information, you've spent the time, you've been to Nike, you've been inside. I'm gonna sign with Nike. I want you to go work there. I've already worked it out for them to hire you.
It's a good referral to have. It's a good referral to have. It's like,
how did you take that? Because like I said, I took it in like 3 different ways, but how did you take it?
Yeah, I think it's the magic of being in the room, you know, when you're finally on that campus and you grew up someone who was an athlete. So Mav played basketball, was teammates with LeBron, went to college and ended up leaving college to get the intern at Nike. You probably grew up, you know, a sneakerhead, fanatic about sneakers, and you think that Nike is really good at designing cool sneakers. And then you get in the room and you're like, wait a minute, it's not so much about the sneakers. The key ingredient here is the ability to tell stories.
Yep.
So I think that's the magic of being in the room, that when you're outside of an industry and you're just admiring what you think it is, whether it's because you naturally enjoy what's being produced, you're a consumer of the product or service that's coming out of it, you don't always know the key ingredient, the special sauce that makes that thing tick.
Right.
So I think being in the room, it gave him that foresight, you know, and we talked about it in a previous clip. Much of what they've recreated has come off of, we know the big piece of it here is using people who are marketable, and not using them in a bad sense, but positioning people who are marketable or helping to tell their stories. The more we can give the voice to the athlete and take away the media, you know's tendency to kind of shift the narrative or displace us, we have more power to do so. So yeah, that's the first thing that stood out. It's like, man, the magic of being in the room, you can figure out a key ingredient of something that you can duplicate everywhere you go. And we've seen it in a lot of their businesses so far.
Yeah, I think for me, right, there's probably 3 ways that I looked at this. One is I loved how he broke down Nike. Like because I think we all look at Nike as a place where you can get sports apparel. You get sneakers, you get shirts, hoodies, sweats, all this great stuff. So you can go on your, athletic journey of whatever it is, right? Or just to look good, either or. But the way he was like, nah, it's not products, it's the stories of these athletes and how they've used them to go to the next level, like the Olympics, like the championships and things like that. And that's what sells, is the stories and not necessarily the products, right? And I'm like, man, like I already know how important storytelling is within branding, but I never broke it down to where that was Nike, right? And the crazy thing is I read Shoe Dog, right? And for those people who don't know what that is, the book by the person who did Nike, right?
Phil Knight.
Yep. And even the book was so concentrated on the shoe, right? And the journey of building the shoe and making Nike work and things like that, where I didn't hear the storytelling of the athlete. I didn't hear it through that. So when he said that, I was like, man, that makes sense, because then I think of the cap situation, right? I think of, when the Olympics are on and you see everybody rocking Nike, right? They're not selling anything. They're actually promoting that everybody's going to the Olympics and they're wearing Nike, and you almost want to represent whatever your country is proud by wearing whatever they have, which is Nike. You know, it's crazy when you think about it like that. The second way that I got out of it was how important it is that your internship, that your 9 to 5 skills transfers to your entrepreneurship self.
That's a good word, Nix.
He literally interned with Nike and learned everything that he could, right? And you heard him. He was like, yo, I left it and I went back to consult, right? They hired me to be a consultant. To then, hey, LeBron was like, yo, you're already in it. Boom, let's do this together. To then, even with the media company of Uninterrupted, it's storytelling. Like, but he learned all that through Nike. And sometimes I think we actually downplay or not really pay attention to our, what I would say, past life, right? Of the 9 to 5 or the interning and everything like that, because it may not be exactly what we're doing now, but there are a lot of transferable skills that we have to recognize and actually kind of still craft in a certain kind of way, because it began here, it was a seed here, but it's now growing with our entrepreneurship ways, right? And I love that I don't know if he noticed that, right? But you clearly saw the journey. You clearly saw the connection of, like, it only made sense, but it still makes sense after the Nike deal. Like, it didn't stop there. Like, the storytelling continues with everything from when LeBron did the decision, right? When they did shows like The Shop and what they're doing with LeBron's son and the team, and you know, documenting that whole journey, right? It's amazing to see how skills from earlier on is still relevant right now. And so, like, I even look back like, okay, my work ethic really comes from my Navy days, from doing all these different jobs all at the same time, that now when I'm doing what I do now with E and the team, that I'm doing all these different jobs and it doesn't faze me. Like, my work ethic, where I don't go to sleep until certain things are done, is because I get it from the Navy, where it's like, yo, you don't go to sleep until, you know, this watch is over, right? And so you have to kind of connect what you've learned, your work ethic, and from past life and now. We're not called past life, the 9 to 5 kind. Now, if you're in the 9 to 5 or as an intern right now, pay attention to the skills. Pay attention to what you're doing, because you could probably use that and flip it to create impact and make money down the line. But I think with Mav, he figured out what that was, which was storytelling. He figured it out. He's like, yo, I didn't even know that storytelling was a job. That's a whole job, right? And he stuck with that. He recognized it. And so I think if people were to recognize what that skill, what that thing is early, right? And not even necessarily formulated in its full entirety at first, but just know, like, yo, this is special. I don't know what that is, but what they're making me do here, or what they're doing, this is special. I need to pay attention to it because I didn't even know that was possible. Pay attention to that. Write it down somewhere. That's what I would say. I don't know.
Yeah, that's big, man. That's huge. That's huge. Yeah, I mean, a big part of it is you got to be a progressive thinker. You know, you got to be able to see the good out of any bad situation so that you can use it down the line. Because, like you said, skills are absolutely transferable. Experience is absolutely transferable. Knowledge and information is also transferable. So if you're in a situation that is not most ideal, really think about it like, man, how can I empty the bucket and really figure out what can I take from here so that I can use it elsewhere? I've done it, right? I've mentioned Wall Street. I've mentioned the hospitality industry. I've been in multiple spaces, baseball, and look how it's kind of serving on this episode in ways.
Yeah.
But that's a portion of my life that has helped me, be the person who I am today. So yeah, no, it absolutely is important. And something about those like low moments, like the embarrassing jobs, the ones that you kind of wish nobody would see you in that uniform, and you kind of, like you doing the most to hide it. There's a lot of lessons in those if you really can have the foresight to see and be a progressive thinker and say, man, what can I extract from these moments? There's so much that you can build out of that. So I love that you bring that up. That's definitely a lesson.
Just saying.